Non-sexual affection is important in your relationship. Not only that, I gave you a statistic once when we were talking about the need to communicate and to have conversation. Now, the needs in non-sexual affection is so important that it should be like a 15-to-1 ratio, meaning that you need to be touching, holding hands, kissing, making out 15-to-1 in terms of sex. Look at what Dr. Suzanne says. She says that touching your partner several times a day allows closeness and intimacy to grow in a natural way. You get connected, you trust, then you're able to be vulnerable. She continues, another reason to increase non-sexual touching is that not only does it improve your sex life, it also helps partners with low sex drive to not fear that all of their touching will be interpreted as an invitation to sex. What does she mean by that? I have a lot of wives who complain to me and says, Amanda, every time my husband gets a little closer to me in the bed, I want to run away because I know the only reason he's doing that is because he wants to have sex with me. And so even if he didn't want to at that particular moment, I just want to scoot away. I have wives telling me, maybe this is your story. Wives will say, Amanda, when I get out of the shower, I sprint to put clothes on because if I am naked, my husband, he's just going to want to have sex with me. Now, there are times where that is welcome and that is wanted, but if every time you are going to be affectionate with your wife, the intent is sex, she's not going to have it. You know, Dr. Suzanne continues. She goes, sometimes partners are exhausted, they're sleepy, they're just planning to go to bed with a book. They would enjoy physical closeness, they would enjoy physical intimacy, but sex is the last thing on their mind. I mean, I've been there. Look at what she says. Sometimes the lower drive partner pulls away, avoiding opportunities for physical closeness because they know it will lead to sex. Women need non-sexual affection. And what does this non-sexual affection look like? Write it down, boys. These are ways that you can still show closeness and intimacy without sex. So kissing your partner on their neck, cuddling with one another, walking with your arms on each other's waist, holding hands, sitting close on the bed, sitting close on the couch while you're reading a book. Scoot up close to each other. You know, do footsies with each other. When you're watching a movie, cuddle with each other. Stay connected, stay close. Non-sexual affection is what your wife needs. What do you guys say, women? What do you say? Do you need that? Now, although intimacy doesn't have to necessarily be through direct physical touch either. What do I mean by that? When was the last time you looked at your wife in the eyes? When is the last time that you looked at your husband in the eyes? This is also communication. This is also a way of bridging closeness. Physical intimacy. Look at each other in the eyes and just spend time together. Kiss. Remember our 6-second kiss from last week? Share some of those. I want to share with you before we move on to number 2. I have a few clients, a few wives and a few husbands who have experienced some form of trauma, be it emotional trauma, physical trauma, abuse, and a lot of them have a difficult time in their sexual relationship with their husband or with their wives. It's usually the case that it seems to be that women have a harder time, especially after some sort of trauma, abuse, emotional has occurred, has happened to them, when they felt helpless or violated in any sort of way. And if you will remember that 95% of sex for women happens in their mind, and 5% is physical. If 95% is happening in her mind, you know that she needs to feel safe and secure. And oftentimes, women who have experienced these traumas in their past and their childhood, it's hard for them to have sex with their husbands. And so I had a case recently, and the wife was saying, I have a really hard time having sex with my husband right now, especially as I'm revisiting the traumatic events that happened to me when I was a little girl. I can't have sex with my husband. I keep having these images, these visions in my head, and I can't. I start to panic. And so I asked her, well, what is a non-sexual way that your husband can show you affection? And it didn't even dawn on her. She's like, oh, that is also a thing. You see why? Because women are so used to, as soon as their husband comes towards them, that they think, oh man, he wants sex. This does not need to be the case. And so I said, well, what is a non-sexual way that your husband can feel connected to you? Because while women need non-sexual affection, here's a hint for next week, men need sex. Men need sex. And so the husband was feeling stressed out and frustrated because he wasn't getting sex, and the wife was also feeling upset and frustrated because she wasn't feeling close to him. And so she thought about it and she decided, I wouldn't mind if he just kissed me on the neck. And so the husband was really excited about this, and he started kissing her on the neck. And here's the thing, those non-sexual affection bridged the gap for them in such a way that they became closer and closer and closer. And guess what happened? Eventually, guess what? It did lead to sex. And they were both of their needs were met. They were both satisfied. So compassion, as I mentioned earlier, it will lead to passion.